Local lottery winners of Global Dine. When is it your turn? Part 2 of 2. A real shot kicker is carbon dioxide induced whack-a-mole, balloon, and acupuncture geophysics. As this writer has repeatedly said since 1982, the most immediate impact on humanity from rising CO2 will not be from the warming, but the destruction of the food chain by the worsening drought deluge cycle. Now, another process has been discerned. Fears of rising sea levels from melting glaciers are secondary to a more primal geological process. Consider how the Earth has a crust that is very thin, riding on a viscous mass from a few miles to about 70 miles. Relative to its 8,000 miles diameter, if the Earth were a ping-pong ball, the walls of the ball would be much thinner. Or, if the Earth was an egg, the shell thickness would be 25% of the average eggshell. Life on Earth is really walking on eggshells or less. The following past and current events demand a conclusion that shows how the lottery of local winners in the CO2 lottery can be tallied in the hundreds of thousands due to the impact of rising temperatures on plate movements, earthquakes, and volcanoes. Research has shown that the advance of glaciers during the ice ages caused earthquakes, as the weight of the glacier ice pressed downward on the crust. At the same time, the water frozen in the glaciers was no longer weighing down the seabeds, thus releasing pressure on those tectonic plates. Bingo! Whack-a-mole earthquakes. Sort of like the matron after she removes her corset. The following is from a scientific essay. If you want to read it, press the stop button. Similar data shows a relation of changing weight on the Earth's crust and resulting earthquakes is the massive Chinese Three Gorge Dam, which resulted in earthquakes as the dam filled with water. Another analogy of how glaciers affect the flimsy, elastic Earth's crust is pressing on a balloon, which causes it to bulge elsewhere until the pressure is removed. Scientists, I'm sorry that it is scientists rather than conservative politicians, preachers, priests, pastors, mullahs, and rabbis, but scientists report that the melting of Greenland's ice sheet has resulted in the largest island in the world rising a half-inch. Doesn't sound like much, but how much pressure does it take to release tectonic plates latched together or reactivate dormant fault lines? The quantified and noticeable increase in earthquakes in active and dormant areas can be explained by the melting of glaciers not only on Greenland Island, but on the continents. This writer attributes the Indonesian earthquake and tsunami, as well as the Japanese earthquake, tsunami, and Fukushima disasters, to the downwind effects of global warming. With an accelerating rate of CO2 thinning, earthquakes will occur not only more often, but more severely. Close geological relatives of earthquakes are volcanoes. The early warning system of impending eruptions is the monitoring of earth tremors, that is, escalating earthquakes. As part of the death of life on Earth by 2050, there will be an increase in volcanic activity which will spew vast amounts of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Volcanic gases contain almost 40 times as much CO2 as is present currently in the atmosphere. All the carbon on the surface of the Earth came originally from beneath the surface via volcanoes. Again, I'm sorry, this is a secular and scientific fact rather than a religious revealed truth, because most people only believe the latter, especially the fundamentalists who mix politics and religion in the good old USA. But a mother of all shat kickers will be when the Yellowstone caldera opens up. These supervolcanoes devastate surrounding areas not for dozens of miles like most volcanoes such as Mount St. Helens, but for thousands of miles. With a cycle of about 600,000 years, with the last one happening about 600,000 years ago, the Yellowstone caldera buried the Midwest from Louisiana all the way up the Mississippi to Iowa. An eruption of Yellowstone could release upwards of 10,000 times the volume of gases and ashes as Mount St. Helens, which is pretty impressive. Ominously, Yellowstone earthquakes are increasing. Ominously, measurements show that the Yellowstone crest is rising. So, the law of unintended consequences may have the big one in California superseded by this supervolcano in Yellowstone with a sudden life and lifestyle destroying catastrophe, which will save the victims from dying of slow global warming. When you have a nut rusted to a boat, you can increase your chances of loosening the nut by applying a lubricant. Fracking is the same thing, injecting a slush to lubricate stuck rocks becoming unstuck. For petrodollars, petrophiliacs, fracas. Data, it's secular and scientific, not revealed truth, shows an increase in seismic activity tied to the petrophiliacs drilling deep under the water table, they claim, to force millions of gallons of slush under thousands of pounds of pressure to open up natural gas deposits. When it comes to activating seismic faults, fracking is like placing dynamite on a dam holding back millions of gallons of brute force. I also hope the fundamentalists, the cretinists, the evolutionists in Texas would get off their butts and stop being sadistic by withholding the power of prayer. Why aren't the evangelicals praying? Please, pray more, please. If you are praying wrong, pray right. Try another religion if yours is not working. All those Texans must be masochistic, since they are not using Governor Rick Perry's power of prayer to pray away the heat wave. What are they waiting for? For some T-bone heads, praying for plays is more important than praying for saving life on earth. What would Jesus do? What is worse than a political promise which is not worth the paper on which it is written? Religious promises that distract from reality. The learning center for making false promises with continual encouragement of and forgiveness for ignorance is the pulpit. The pulpit Pied Pipers keep saying all of human evils are part of God's plans which we cannot understand. Religious beliefs and faiths are the ultimate source of ignorance. They are the major reason why life on earth will not be saved. As repeatedly shown, chronically and acutely, when people's material freedom is minimal or lessened, they retreat to the mental refuge of denying reality instead of becoming knowing problem solvers. We are all on death row from global dying. We are on a planet that is rapidly transforming into its solar twin, Venus, which once was like Earth, but now is a hot, windswept planet with high carbon dioxide concentrations. That have killed us? Philandering, habitual politicians like Congressman Shitness. The only hope is a global effort on a scale and urgency greater than the World War II Manhattan Project.